S.E. Hinton, practically alone among American authors, was treated very well by American movies. It's rare enough that a book is gifted an honest, earnest, stylistically ambitious, and sensitive adaptation by a director who cares about the text enough to take risks and think about future readers encountering both forms, film and book. But for this to happen almost 4 out of 5 times has got to be almost completely unique. Now, I'll grant that the twin adaptations by Francis Ford Coppola of Hinton's seminal The Outsiders and Rumblefish stand head and shoulders above their sister adaptations, because Coppola was a filmmaker who had had time to become great. He'd already painted the great American cinematic works several times over, and was in the most luxuriant stylistic period of his career. He knew what to do with bad airport novels and classics alike. He knew exactly how to handle Hinton's tales of lost boys, because he himself was something of a perpetual adolescent. If we don't talk about The Outsiders and Rumblefish as first-rate Coppola films, it's because there was so little room on his CV for more air-quotes masterpieces. So if Christopher Cain and Emilio Estevez's That Was Then, This Is Now and Tim Hunter's Tex don't quite have Coppola's flair, they're still worthy and aesthetically true adaptations of Hinton's lesser-known works. Cain and Estevez opted for an agreeably scuzzy barroom feel for their story of 2 friends going through a bumpy adolescence together. Hunter was making his directorial debut after a tiny stint at American International Pictures. He'd later perfect the 80s youth in peril film with 1986's River's Edge, and he remains an interesting filmmaker to this day, if his budget's never quite caught up with his ambition. For a debut, Tex is a fine piece of work indeed.
Do you think that's a bear in there? It's only a rabbit. You ain't never even seen a bear. Whoa, you got some imagination on you for a horse. Oh.
As the title character, Matt Dillon gives such a beautiful, lived-in performance. A mound of clay just pounded into human shape, assured in all his many shortcomings.
Away for lunch, let me remind you that your book reports are due on Friday. And Tex McCormick, I don't want to see you turning in another report on Smokey the Cow Horse. You've done it twice already.
Yeah, but I read it both times.
We'll read another book by the same author.
You mean that guy wrote another book?
In the library.
Oh, wow.
He's so good he makes his brother, the film's moral center, Jim Metzler's Mason, look like a sheet of sandpaper.
Do what instead? It's a questionnaire from... I ain't gonna shout, you come in here.
I'm changing. You told me to change.
Well, when you're done changing, genius.
He has to be dry and straight for Dillon to appear as wild and expressive as he is, but Metzler's just a little too old school to quite work. Especially when the supporting cast includes Estevez, who, like Dillon, was in most of these S.E. Hinton adaptations.
Except a pen or pencil and 2 pieces of blue sleeve paper. Kathy, somebody has put caps in the typewriters. And you two were laughing just a little bit too early, weren't you?
Born star Meg Tilly in only her second movie.
Hey, Jamie.
Oh, I thought you were Johnny.
Well, I ain't
Jamie,
Come on,
you
cut it
still
out.
in bed?
Get in the closet.
The legendary Ben Johnson as their father.
Jamie, what was that noise?
I think the wind blew the door shut.
I told you to leave the window closed at night.
I can't sleep when it's closed.
You won't be able to sit if you don't. You leave this shut, you hear?
I'm not deaf, Cole.
Good night.
have a reason for being in my bedroom in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah. Right, well,
Don't look so scared. I got my nightgown on.
I'm not scared. Scared of what?
Getting what you came for.
Oh, no. See, Lem showed up, and he's over in Johnny Bob's room.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Boy or girl?
it's a boy.
Huh.
And a nearly prenatal Željko Ivanek.
We're headed for Bixby.
Step in the right direction, anyway.
How about yourself?
Going to the state line.
That old 3-2 beer you can take, huh?
Yeah, that's right. I want me some foolproof Budweiser. So how about we just keep going to that state line? Let's all take it easy, huh?
Metzler can't help but weigh the film down just a bit.
He said it was his fault. Says he took him over to some party somewhere.
Well, maybe he's telling the truth. He does that sometimes. Keeps you guessing.
Now, don't you get smart with me, Mace. I'd like to talk to Tex, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I do mind. I mind a lot, as a matter of fact. Don't you have enough kids of your own to hassle?
How old are you, Mason?
18. I'll be 19 this summer.
I haven't seen your pop around here much this year.
His work requires him to travel. What is this, Cole, a census?
2 boys living out here alone without the sign of an adult. Now, that's really something. I bet the state welfare people would like to know about this.
Hunter and director of photography Rick Waite filmed the Oklahoma countryside with an eye towards its untamed grandeur, and they're aided in no small part by composer Pino Donaggio, who always seemed to be telling the story of the downfall of mankind with every score he wrote back in his heyday. Donaggio gives the film depth not even Hunter seems sure with what to do, but that's ultimately, I think, a consequence of working at Disney in the 1980s. During this period, they had scads of money to throw at movies like Tex, because they wanted to get back their grip on the cultural agenda, which they'd lost in the 70s and now couldn't locate. Tex was ultimately too intimate and modest a project to do much more than quietly succeed on its own terms, which it did. It's worth noting that Disney let Hunter get away with murder in their quest to become relevant once again. There's a drug deal that devolves into gun violence in a Disney movie. It happened.
This guy's nuts.
What do you think you're doing?
I told you already, I'm leaving.
And he's gonna narc.
He's gonna narc, Kelly. Come on, man.
You're not going nowhere, pal.
Kelly, it's cool, really. Come on, man.
All right, now hold it right there.
Jesus Christ, man.
Oh, hey, look, man. It's cool, okay? Everything's cool. I mean, we'll be cool, and you be cool. Just leave, okay?
You're gonna kill him.
Tex, come on, man. You don't want to kill him. Let's just split. Let's get out of here.
Not till I settle up with him.
You have settled up, Tex. Texas, come on, man. Let's go.
But still, the film was only the slight success it was destined to be. If Coppola couldn't even make much more than his money back with some of his most richly impressionistic filmmaking, what chance did Hunter stand, even gambling with Disney money? Tex is exactly the kind of agreeable and emotionally naked film, of which Disney accidentally became a steady source while foundering in the 1980s, trying to hook young male teenage viewers, and largely failing. I'm grateful they were going through a midlife crisis because they threw blank checks at some of our most idiosyncratic artists, like they were Mr. Burns on Ether.
No, I need some more ether. I can still feel the movement of the emery board.
We're fresh out, sir. I'll get some more.
Leave the rag.
Excuse me, Mr. Burns.
Poppin' fresh, you glutinous little doughboy. Oh, there's something I've wanted to do to you for years.
Oh, wow. Mr. Burns, I was wondering if you'd like to sponsor my bowling team for $500.
Oh, I certainly, Poppin' fresh. I owe my robust physique to your tubes of triple-bleached goo.
Woohoo!
It's comforting on one level that periods of financial irresponsibility seem hardwired into the Disney DNA. Nobody stays popular forever, after all. and the wild flailing about that results from fiscal depression often led the company to their most soulful and accidentally honest work. Tex was an accident you don't see Disney make anymore, which is a great shame.
Great, quick.